we're obviously we're rooted in tradition, over 200 years of education and educational excellence, and that's what we're rooted in that, but yet also adaptable to the changes that are going on. So sometimes we'll talk about in meetings is what we're doing with our students is we're preparing them for jobs and careers that don't exist.
Right.
So if we're teaching them in the ways that were taught 20, 30, 40 years ago, we're doing them a disservice because things have changed. They've changed over the last 5-10 years. So if we're not changing and adapting to those, then we're doing them a disservice and not putting them in the best situation for whatever's coming next for them. When they graduate at 18, 18 years later, by the time they're 36, the world's going to look a lot different. And there's going to be a lot of different things, and they could be doing something that we don't even know about now. So how are we preparing them with the skills that they're going to be able to adapt and learn and work in those environments? So I think it's very important that we're aware of, and we, make sure that we teach them the fundamentals of education that they need, but also make sure that we teach them the critical thinking skills and the adaptability and the perseverance and the grit that they can get through different situations and push them outside of their comfort zone, like push them in their education.
Hello, my fellow school leaders, and welcome to the TomoClub Podcast series. I'm Avinash Bansal, co-founder at TomoClub. And today on our podcast, we have the school leader at Pinkerton Academy, Mr. Timothy Powers. And Pinkerton is a very remarkable institution, 3,200 students, 15 academic buildings across 167 acres, like more than 500 staff members. And it's started in 1814, I guess, right? So it's a huge legacy institution. And I'm so honored to have you, Mr. Power, here. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. I'm excited to be with you and have this conversation.
Absolutely. So I always start my podcast before discussing the topic is what got you into education, and is that reason still valid today?
Yeah, I grew up in a family of educators. My mom was an educator. My grandparents were educators. My dad had gone to school for education, but took a different path. So I think it's kind of one of those things that was always in my blood. And then just I think the opportunity to work with students and learn from the teachers and coaches that I had growing up, and to be a role model and to help educate them and to see the successes. I think that kind of just drew me into the field and where it landed me. And it was a little bit of a different route at the beginning, but got into it and made some great connections and worked with lots of awesome people and lots of awesome students throughout the years.
That's so amazing that you kind of continued the family tradition of contributing to the field of education. Mm-hmm. So congratulations on that. And
thank you.
If you can give us a background about your journey in education, like kind of a snapshot, that would be really helpful.
Sure. So my undergraduate was actually in accounting and business and that. So I started off as a math teacher, took an alternative path to getting certified and did that and started teaching math and coaching sports and got involved in a bunch of different things. And at the very beginning was always saying yes to different opportunities that arose, and taught math, taught business, coached, became an athletic director and climbed the ranks through that way. But it was really working in the classroom, trying different things, working with different classes, different levels, things like that, and getting different experiences, and always wanting to try and challenge myself and push myself outside of the comfort zone in whatever role it was that I was working in.
Oh, that's definitely interesting. What do you mean? Like, what kind of challenging situations have you seen in your career?
A wide variety. I think there's always the challenges of working with students in the classroom. Teaching math. The math gets a bad rap of people not liking it or things along those lines. So working with students to understand math and the importance of it, and why and how we teach, and also changing the way that we teach math and we work with students. So there's the challenges of that. So challenges of just, working with students and with families as they're going through their journey there, and then in different roles, the challenges have changed. It's been as an athletic director, was working with coaches and parents and players and student athletes and officials and things along those lines, and then going into administration, working beyond, not just within the school, but beyond the school and outside in different groups, and whether it's competing factors, but also looking at what's the best interest for our students, for our faculty staff, and where are we headed next, and what does tomorrow look like for our students.
No, that's really inspiring. So absolutely, all educators, we came in because we believe that it has to be student first in all our approaches. But one thing that really catch my
Mhm.
eye when I was, doing my homework about you was you have spent a remarkable amount of time at Pinkerton Academy, right? As an assistant principal, head of school. So what has got your attention, or what do you really like about that institution that, it has been that your home ground for such a long time?
I've been fortunate. I think it's a great place. It's a lot of great students, a lot of great staff to work with. There's something special about this school and this institution. We have employees that have been here for over 50 years. So it's great. Every year we celebrate anniversaries of employees that have been here for 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 years, which is very pretty common within schools and that to have people that get to that 20-year mark, 25-year mark. But we've got people that are 30, 35, 40, 45, 50 years, which just speaks to who the school is, what it is that we do, the connections that are made. And it really is a special spot that we're able to really work with our students and help them to grow and learn and succeed. And then you see them come back and start to work here. Like, we had our opening day and for all of our employees, and had a picture taken of all of our alums that are working with us. And it's great to see all of them on stage, and you see the generations of them, and to see the impact that the employees had with them, that they wanted to come back and work here and be part of it all. It speaks to the special nature of the institution.
No, I can definitely say that it's not so natural nowadays, because the shift of educators across the institution is very rapid because of multiple reasons, whether it's pay scale or the satisfaction at a job, because of the colleagues and all, because of the vision driven passion. There's so many reasons that it's difficult to contain the talent within the same organization for a long time. So as you said, it's not like you said, it's very common. I'm telling you, I'm talking to a lot of school leaders, it's not common. So you guys have pulled off something really special. Uh,
Well,
now,
thank you.
coming to the discussion, like, of course, about the communication culture and the cultural challenges. Um, at Pinkerton, I was reading that you have a vast student body, and a community that is spanning over different towns. So, how do you actually ensure an effective and transparent communication across students, faculty, parents, and the towns itself?
It's definitely a challenge because you have competing interests in what they want and how they want it. So it's really working to try and find the right medium in order to communicate the messages to all the various stakeholders, whether it is faculty, staff, or students, parents, guardians, and then members of the general public in the sending towns and that have vested interests within. So it is a challenge of how do you communicate, what do you communicate, what can you communicate? Because there are different things that happen that, unfortunately, like there are restrictions, whether it's through privacy, personnel, things like that we can't share information about, but people want. So it's how do you work with sharing the right things and the right levels of things, and then continuing to work to build trust and grow that relationship to know what it is we're doing and the importance of it all, and then celebrate the wins and the successes that everyone has. And it's very easy to celebrate the big ones, whether it's an athletic team winning a state title or a club team going off to nationals or things along those lines. But a lot of times there's lots of little wins that happen on a daily basis, and it's really how do you highlight those? How do you share those? And sometimes it's just sharing that with the parent guardian of the student, or it's sharing that the success that the teacher had with their department head, or something along those lines. And sometimes it is a bigger thing that gets shared with the greater community, but showing that we see, we value, and we want to celebrate with them what it is, the success that they've had.
Yeah, absolutely. It's easier said than done. And if you guys are running that institution, I would love to know, there are some example of how you have managed those crises, or how you have managed those, because it's the stories, right, which really sticks with people, because otherwise words
Yes.
are not that powerful. So can you give us some stories, paint us a picture around communication challenges and how you have overcome it?
Sure. So, I mean, the challenges in whether it's a crisis type situation, things like that. The real challenge there is in how much you can communicate, when you can communicate it, and some of the restrictions there. So, unfortunately, with some of those crisis type things, whether it's unfortunately we've had to deal with loss where we've had students pass, we've had faculty, staff pass. So, in those situations, it's where we share what the families will allow us to share. And some have expressed that they want it communicated and they want it shared, and others have wanted nothing shared. And it's really respecting their privacy there and what it is, and then having the communication with our greater community at that moment. But a lot of it's the work that's done ahead of time, and really be focused in on like sharing what we have for resources and what's available for our students and our faculty and staff in our community should a situation ever arise that they need it. So I think a lot of times you get caught in the moment, in the here and the now, and what you can or cannot share, and then people are gonna run with it one way or the other. But it's all that work ahead of time and getting out there of these are the things that we have, and this is the resources that are there available for you. That way they can make that connection, and you can help guide them to a resource that they may need to take advantage of, or something else, but at least they know when those situations arise. Those are the things that are there, whether it's something internal or an external partnership that we've maintained and can direct, student, family, guardian, faculty, staff to that. So there's a lot of things with the communication. It's not just when the event happens, whether it's something tragic or if it's something that's joyful and a success. Like it could run the gamut there. It's a lot of work is done ahead of time. Leading up to and prepping to get into those spots, and what we can share, what we can't share, and how we share too. Like certain things go out as just an email. Other things are social media posts on the various platforms, and some are a combination of the two. It really depends upon what the situation is and what audience we're trying to reach and share that with.
No, I agree with you. I have had a discussion with a lot of school leaders that things have so dramatically changed that the flow of information is so quick that you need to control the narrative, right? Otherwise, things can go out of hand very quickly, especially with everyone kind of have their phone in the hand all the time. They're able to consume very quickly. So yeah, it's definitely a challenge. And but there's technology is also helping is AI. A lot of school leaders have now started getting their messages vetted through AI, where they have some communication guidelines set up. They have some policy document uploaded, so to make sure that their communication is always aligning. Have you guys done anything of that sorts?
Yes. Yeah, I think it's very important. Like you have a communication guide, a style, things that you follow, regardless of what the communication is, and then it's clear and people know where to go to get the truth or to get the facts about something. That way there's commonality and people can take comfort in that, that's the way the messages go and where it's shared and, things along those lines.
No, absolutely. So have you guys used AI for that? Like any tool for that?
Yeah, I mean, we've used AI across our campus in a variety of ways. And, a lot of times with AI, it's, generating, a thought or an idea or starting something or an outline with it. And, some of it depends on the communication and obviously, with the privacy, things like that. So if we're going to communicate about something that involves names or things along those lines, we're very careful because we don't put names or anything like that in there because we don't want to, we want to make sure we're maintaining privacy and we're not feeding that into any systems there. So when it comes to AI and use like that, it'll say like student X at school Z or something along those lines. So that way we're maintaining the privacy and not putting something out there that, can be used in a different way. But the AI is powerful. You see it used in so many different ways and so many different platforms. And, it's just going to become more and more prevalent that, we've really embraced the use of AI and really working to become not only AI literate, but AI fluent and, making sure that, we're aware of it and how to use it, because we need to be working with our students and their use of it and teaching them because it's not going away. and the next generation is going to be better and use it more than we're using it. But it's got to be something that we're embracing, we're embedding it, and how do we use it that we don't lose the critical thinking and that goes into all the work that we do. There's that human element, but how can we leverage the AI to assist us with the work that we're doing?
Yeah. No, I agree with you. There has to be a lot of professional development for educators before they can start doing AI literacy for students on that. Um,
Yeah.
One thing that always I really want to know about the independent school, that what does family expect from Pinkerton Academy? Uh, do they expect you guys to be on your toes with new technologies, new curriculums, new programs? Like, how do you stay relevant for those teachers, for those parents and communities?
Yeah. So the quick answer is yes, they do expect that, and I think that's the right approach, and I think they should expect, anyone should expect that of any school that they're going to, that they're embracing, the not necessarily just not saying embrace the most current, but like the vetted and and staying up to date with what are the changes and what are the different factors that are going on. There's we're obviously like we're rooted in tradition, over 200 years of education and educational excellence, and that's what we're rooted in that, but yet also adaptable to the changes that are going on. So sometimes we'll talk about in meetings is like what we're doing with our students is we're preparing them for jobs and careers that don't exist.
Right.
So if we're teaching them in the ways that were taught 20, 30, 40 years ago, we're doing them a disservice because things have changed. They've changed over the last 5, 10 years. So if we're not changing and adapting to those, then we're doing them a disservice and not putting them in the best situation for whatever's coming next for them. When they graduate at 18, 18 years later, by the time they're 36, the world's going to look a lot different, and there's going to be a lot of different things, and they could be doing something that we don't even know about now. So how are we preparing them with the skills that they're going to be able to adapt and learn and work in those environments? So I think it's very important that we're aware of, and we, make sure that we teach them the fundamentals of education that they need, but also make sure that we teach them the critical thinking skills and the adaptability and the perseverance and the grit that they can get through different situations and push them outside of their comfort zone, like push them in their education. Like how do they learn things that pushes the envelope and gets them to think differently, to take a look at it, and they may land in the same spot that they were beforehand, but look at all the sides and all the different views of things and use that as a basis so that when they get into situations, they're able to, show empathy, but then they're able to adapt and they're able to work through and be a good citizen and have a successful career or whatever that may be.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree with you. So how are you, like, have you guys launched any recent programs or any, what are the strategies that you guys make sure that these skills, like you mentioned, the grit, putting kids in uncomfortable zone and they still are able to be adaptive to it? So what's the strategy on that? Any programs or any training for that?
Yeah, so we do a lot of professional learning programs where we go through the different technologies. Like right now with the opening of a new school year and starting stuff for the last couple of days, working with our faculty and staff on different pieces, and whether it's the AI, curriculum work, things along those lines, and seeing what's coming next for that. So supporting them in the classroom so that they're able to work through those things. So looking at the different tools that we use, whether it's an online platform, a cloud-based platform, making sure that, understanding what is embedded in it, how is it used, and how can an educator in the classroom leverage it in the teaching that they're doing and make those connections. So, that essentially take a look at that, like how do you make that worksheet come to life in a different way that's going to help to close that gap for any student that's in the classroom, that, all the students learn differently, like just like we all learn differently, we all teach differently, we all go through it. So how do we bring all of that into the classroom to be able to connect with all of the students in their learning? So looking at those different platforms and what's embedded in it and making sure that they understand how to best use that as they're going through the learning process.
No, I love that. I love that. I'm pretty sure you guys are doing a great job in building that. Otherwise, an institution running for 200 plus years is not very common. So, but there is also element to it that when you are a 2 century old school, um, it's an historic institution. So sometimes that legacy can become a baggage. I don't know if you understand what I mean, but
Mhm.
how do you preserve tradition while also pushing for new innovation or new pedagogy is something that
Yeah.
really want to know.
Yeah, no, it's true. When you have something, an institution that's 2 centuries old, it's very easy to rely on, what's always worked. Um, and I think that we hold on to traditions, but there are certain traditions like we have, different student events, like a senior corn roast that's coming up in a couple of weeks. For the last 100 years, every senior has had that as part of their senior year, and that's a tradition that the event itself has changed in some way, shape, or form like that. It's like different things have evolved, but the premise of it's the same, and that's a tradition that's held on to because it's an important part of being a student here in the fabric of our community. But when we look at other things, like things grow and change and evolve in within the classroom, and the curriculum has continued to adapt and change. And when we look at it, we're always questioning like why is that the best is that the best thing to do? Is that right? Is it good for kids? Is it the right thing to do? Question that and see. And maybe it is. Maybe that's the best way to do it, and that we're going to continue to do that. But maybe it's not. So I think one thing we've always challenged each other in it is looking at what it is that we do, and don't just settle and say, okay, we've done this. We did this way last year. We're going to just do it again the same way. Like, it's just turn the page and let's do it again. It's really look at it and say, okay, what's working, what's not working. Is this the best way to go about it? And if it's not, then what are the changes we have to make? And if it is the best way, great. Like, let's show that it is the best way and continue. And we don't want to, don't want to settle, because I think as soon as you settle and say, we're in this routine, this is what we're going to do, that's when things pass you by. The work becomes irrelevant because it's not preparing not only the students for their futures, but also all of our employees. Then they get stuck and they don't get to a point where they're being challenged and being satisfied in their job. And I think that they come up with great ideas, and it's important to work with them to help them promote and do those things in the classrooms.
No, agreed, absolutely. Um, Also, as a like you have worked in a public school district as well, right? Before Pinkerton Academy,
Mhm.
and
Yes. Yeah.
so I want to understand that in a public school setting, you are more accountable to the taxpayer, right? And while in a private school, you're accountable to a private board. Um, how does that governance model changes the pressure? On both the fronts. One is
Yeah.
in terms of you being having more room to innovate, more less aligning with the what the current climate may be, and the other side
Mhm.
also being responsible to a private board. So I want to understand your overall communication as well as how you handle that.
Yeah, so it's there are two different settings and two different things, and I think actually with the way Pinkerton is set up, I think we're like right in the middle of those two in a perfect situation, because we have contracts with 6 to 7 towns, so anyone that lives in those towns, they come to us. So essentially, we're like their public high school, even though we're an independent private school because of those contracts. So I get public school students, but giving them a private school education and experience kind of thing. So it's a really unique and interesting blend that we have. Um, but you're right, like having worked in a public school prior, like it's different in the sense of the communication. In the governance of it, and what the focus is, and how things can change with the school board, and the changes on a regular basis, and where things are going as far as that's concerned, versus working for a private independent school board that there's we have board members that have been on the board for 35 years. So we range from ones that have just joined the last couple of years to 30 years. So there's a great vast experience and knowledge that they bring in, the work that's done, and it allows for, I think it allows for us to be flexible, adaptable, and to move and adjust with the coming needs and the changes within education. And it, while there are differences, I think what we've really tried to strive for is to communicate as clear and as transparent as we can in any situation. Obviously there are things that are, public versus private. There's some differences there in what you can and can't share. with certain things, but then some of the stuff, whether it's it's a student issue or an employee issue or things like that, it doesn't matter public or private. Like there are just certain privacy things that you can't share in either case, and that's something we're always work to navigate. But part of it's building relationships and having conversations, and with all the stakeholders that are involved, and growing that stuff. Whether you're in a public school or private school, either way, it's really comes down to those relationships and fostering them and having the conversations to share where you are, where the school is, where the students are, and where everything is headed.
Yeah, absolutely. There is a huge overlap in the way things work at either of the organizations. But can you explain me that when you said that you have a contract? So is that like sponsored for the student, like, or is it subsidized, or is it free? How does that work on the high school level?
Yeah, so if they live within one of the towns that we have a contract with, the town pays their tuition through their school district. So if you're a resident, they come to us, and it doesn't cost them. They don't have to pay a tuition or anything to us. It's paid through their local school district and that. So we have the vast majority of our students are that way. We also do have private pay students that their families choose to send their child here, and they pay the tuition directly to us. So we do have a mix there, but the vast majority live in the towns, and the towns pay for them to come here. So it gives a unique experience for them.
No, I agree with you. And to be very honest, Tim, I think because it's a very legacy old organization, maybe the things are set in the ways. But when I hear a lot of charter versus public debate, there is always a constant situation where public schools feel that those students who are supposed to be at their school end up being in the charter, and they lose the revenue, right? I don't know if that's the kind of feeling that schools, districts around you also feel for you guys, or not.
No, because in the towns that we have contracts with, they do not have a public high school.
Got it.
So there's not the competing interest. So it's a little bit different there. But I agree with you. I hear we have a lot of charter schools that have popped up in New Hampshire, and there is that that piece of, if they go to the charter school, then the public school, they don't go there, and there's funding and where the funding goes and that. So for us, any of the students that live in those towns that come to us, the public school funding that would be tied to each student like that, the school district gets that money. So they're still getting all the money for the students that come here. And then they just pay the tuition for them attending here. We don't get the state money or the federal money or anything like that there. So that's, in some ways, it's a little bit easier and better in that sense, that we're not directly taking funds away from them in that way, like that. Other situations do cause that. And it's and I get it. It's tough. It's all competing interests and things along those lines and that. But I do believe that competition is a good thing, and that we have to look at how are we providing the best education for our students, and if we're not competing with others and with ourselves to get better, then it's doing a disservice to everyone involved, not only to our current students, our future students, but also to the public good in that, and what is being produced and who our students are going to become later on in life.
No, I'm glad you have that competition first ideology, because that always pushes you to perform better anyway in any industry. Also, the communication as a statement itself, it depends a lot on your leadership style. So I would love to know, are you like a micromanager, or are you a macro manager? What kind of leadership style you follow, and why?
Definitely more the macro. I'm not a micromanager. I think to me, I've always viewed it as, I hire someone to do a job, and I expect that they're going to do the job, and I'm going to work with them and help them grow and learn in their roles and that. But they have a job to do. That there's enough. We all have enough within our own roles to keep us busy. That I don't have the time to start micromanaging people and to go through on that there. That if I can't, it's on me to find the right person to be in that role, to do the job, and to work with them and that. And I think that to me is the important piece, and letting them grow, because then I think we flourish then, because then other ideas come in different thoughts, and when we're having conversations about something, it's having all those people around the table and sharing and talking through, and then we come up with different ideas. We're not going to be, the same idea, the same, like, I don't want to be around the table when we're talking about something and just get yes. Like, it's like, I want that, that debate and the back and forth and, seeing all the different sides of it and then deciding at the end of the day, what's the best path to go forward. And I tell them all the time, it's not mine. This isn't my school. This isn't, it's our students. It's all of us and we all have to, learn and grow and, take care of our role and what it entails and what it does and build that trust with each other that they're going to get the job done.
No, I appreciate that. I think that's the solid way to go. Also,
Thank you.
when you look at your role, evolving over the years, how do you see it becoming in the next? And I don't even talk about decade now. I talk about 2 years, 3 years now. What do you think? How has your role, the scope of work that you were supposed to do has evolved?
I mean, it's just going to continue to evolve. I think it's gone from very, day-to-day focus to more globally, 30,000 feet, 100,000 feet view and looking at things long-term. And a couple of years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, you say long-term, you're looking at things 5-10 years out. Now long-term is, a couple of years out, but then still having that focus of, it's not only decisions in the next couple of years, but also still thinking about in 5 years, in 10 years, in 20 years. And, what is our campus going to look like? What is our education going to look like? What are all those things going to look like in 50 years? And 50 years from now, I'm not going to be working here. I'm going to be retired and enjoying life at that stage from now. But decisions we make now are going to impact 50 years down the road. So I think for me, the role is going to continue to evolve and to make connections and, be in the community and speaking with community leaders and business leaders and alums and families and seeing what's out there, what's coming next and bringing that back into campus and really working with our faculty, staff and, administration and our board and all that about where it is that things are headed and what are the things that we need to do to maintain and to improve upon everything that we do.
No, absolutely. This is good frame of mind again, great mental model that it is gonna constantly evolve. So you can't be stuck to or hold tight the processes because they have to deprecate and they have to come up with new. But what are the current biggest challenges that you're solving for your school? Like that's you're currently figuring it out.
I think there's obviously there's the student side of things and what it is that students are going through, still, recovering from the pandemic because, as they're coming through now, it's, where they were when it hit and what were the things that, they either, missed out on or things that just changed and the learning's changed and working through all of that. And, how do we adapt to make sure that we're meeting the needs there? So there's always that aspect of it. Then there's the ABCs and 1, 2, 3s of it all. And then there's also the mental health and the social media and all those components there that are going on in students' lives. And how do we, work with them to make them, digitally aware of things and all that stuff and working through like that's, a whole, it's educating the whole student and working with our families and guardians and that. And it's not we're dictating this to them. It's really embracing and working with our community throughout all of it, that we have to work together and supporting each other and all that. On the employee side of things, it's the biggest thing right now is really just, maintaining and ensuring that we have all of our positions filled and really working to be a destination. Like we always talk about, like making Pinkerton a destination for our families, our students, our faculty and staff and our community. Like that's what we want to do. So it's really working to make sure that we're in the best position possible and that we're attracting, people. And part of our conversations with it is you see the decline in the number of educators coming out of colleges and universities and looking to get into the profession. So, for us, the age is increasing, not decreasing, of people working in schools. So, we're thinking of like, well, what do we do? Like, how are we going to, fill the gaps and fill the voids that are coming, that, people are retiring and moving on and then well-deserved, but like, how do we fill those spots and fill those roles? And like, what are things that we can do to bring people? And we've done, a lot of apprenticeship and getting our students out into different fields so they can get experience. And we've actually done the same thing with our employees. Like we've brought people in as paras and worked with them in an apprenticeship role. And we've had a handful of them have gone through now, and they, either they are or they're becoming certified teachers. So we've given that pathway for them to get into the classroom and to be able to educate and to teach. And that's always a challenge. And that is as we work through it. And then funding is always a challenge. I think you can go anywhere at any point in time. Funding is a challenge. It's, how do we provide the best and the most for the least amount of money, and managing and working through that. So, that's an aspect of, not only the short term, but then really focusing on the long term funding models that we have, and where does funding come from, and now, and where is it going to come from in 5-10 years? And, 10, 15, 20, 30 more years ago, the funding was different, and it's going to continue to shift and grow. So we want to make sure that we're putting ourselves in the best possible situation, so that way we're able to sustain the work that's being done.
Interesting. So you did mention that attracting more families who want to work with or who want to send their kids to teacher retention and teacher acquisition to funding. So those are definitely three major challenges of schools. Let me ask the same question in a different way. So let's say if there's a magic tool, which may or may not exist, we don't know. Let's say, what do you want that AI tool to do for you right now? I think that might be a good segue in understanding your biggest problem you think AI can solve for.
Well, that's a great question. Like a magic 8-ball, what could the AI solve? I think that if there was a way for an AI predictor model to be able to, predict situations that were going to occur, so that you could create the best possible path forward, would probably be a great thing. But I think that goes back to that magic 8-ball, or that crystal ball that we all wish we could see what tomorrow looks like before tomorrow happens, kind of thing. But yeah, part of it, I think it's the unknown, but it's the really what can, like, utilizing AI to work through those simpler tasks, but then how can we engage it in a way that's going to create deeper learning and understanding for our students. And it's that time piece. Like, there's only so much time in a day. There's only so much time in a classroom with students and that. So how do we maximize that time that we have to really get that deeper learning and understanding for our students? So I think if, when we look at AI, it's like part of that is that's one of the big questions we ask, is like, what is this going to do for us time wise? Like, is this tool going to be something that's going to create more work and give less time for that interaction between a teacher and a student? Or is it going to create a situation where they can have more time to interact, and it's going to help get that deeper learning and understanding that's going to go on? So I think for me, like AI, I think that's a bigger piece of it is how can it help create that time and build that relationship, whether it's in the classroom or for anyone across campus in the work that they do, that it allows for more of that time to interact with others and that human element in that piece.
No, I think coming to your first point, there is definite possibility that AI can be a crystal ball and can, predict future. And there are people doing those kind of things to, what do you call it? Have those models ready, and then they have like a plan of action for every possibility. So there is things happening, whether it's in automobile industry, whether it's in marketing industry, finance industry. So there are a lot of predictive models, and definitely in education as well, whether it's enrollment is a huge problem, that if there can be a better prediction, there can be better resource management. If you look at transportation, I think transportation is such a beautiful way where there is so many things possible. So yeah, I agree with you. There is possibility on the predictor model, but coming to the second one, which is much more probable and right in front of us, is how do we increase face time between the teachers and students by letting teachers repetitive, administrative, non-human intelligence task be automated. So yeah, I think those are very both. That's the whole point. It's a magic. So you can definitely think beyond your imagination, and it may be possible.
Right.
Yeah, love it. Thank you so much. I
Yeah.
think we did cover a lot of pieces on the overall understanding about your academy and the strategies. Anything that you want to share with our audience, which you think, or with the school leaders who would love to know, might be helpful for them?
I think I think just always like, at the end of the day, you look in the mirror and think that you've done the best that you can for your students, your staff, your employees, your community like that. Like it's a challenging job, but it's rewarding. We all have our highs and our lows and everything in between, but it's as challenging it is also a very exciting time to be in education and to work through and to be on the cutting edge of many of these different pieces and embrace the change. And not everyone likes change, and change can be difficult, but change can also be fun and rewarding, and it's a part of life and what we do on a regular basis.
Yeah, agreed. Absolutely. Thank you so much for your time, Tim. I think this was really helpful. And once it put out there, I'm pretty sure a lot of people are going to get a lot of value out of it. So thank you so much for your time.